First, there was The Big Bang Theory. Then came its prequel, Young Sheldon. And now we're on to the sequel to the prequel, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, starring Montana Jordan and Emily Osment as, Georgie and Mandy. But of course, Chuck Lorre's latest spinoff focuses on the titular characters as they navigate through their first marriage, obviously. It's pretty self-explanatory to say the least. And on the topic of things that just make sense, following the hit spinoff with a spinoff from within a spinoff focused on a storyline that resonated best with audiences made sense. This isn't a case of the Walking Dead syndrome, as I'd like to call it, where there's a spin-off and then another, and then it goes on until you're drowning in so many spin-offs you lose sight of the original. Far from it, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage actually fits perfectly into the larger Big Bang Theory puzzle, like a great centerpiece that makes it all make sense. Yet it has quite little to do with Sheldon Cooper and the crew, but it does allow Chuck Lorre to expand even deeper into the Big Bang Theory universe. The Big Bang Theory was CBS's goldmine, with Chuck Lorre at the wheel, Stephen Milaro joisting the sails, and Steve Holland reading the map. The three of them came together and produced something epic for the channel. Naturally, no one wanted it to end there. Young Sheldon wasn't meant to happen, yet it did, and we're glad it did. Organically, Dr. Sheldon Cooper became a fan favorite, and fans wanted to know more and more about this strange man. The same thing happened with Georgie Cooper. Although fans weren't initially as actively involved in his storyline as they were from season 5 onward. Don't get me wrong, I loved a Georgie moment like anyone else, and everyone felt for the two Cooper kids whose needs were often sidelined for their strange younger brother. Yet that was something we'd gotten a sneak peek of in the finale of The Big Bang Theory anyway. If you remember, Lorre introduced Missy pretty early on, episode 15 of season 1, and while they talk about a brother in passing, Georgie wasn't a focus. We only met him in the final season when Sheldon begrudgingly went ahead and invited him to his wedding after a long pause in their relationship. Now, bear with me on this one, I actually think that the Georgie monologue where he speaks his heart out to his little brother for the first time in forever kind of set the stage for young Sheldon. Think about it. Sheldon was just annoyed with his brother for distancing himself and not understanding him enough. That and the fact that Sheldon was very used to self-isolating and having everyone come after him rather than the other way around. It was the Sheldon way of doing things, and it worked out great for him. But Georgie, who lived as a glass kid because of his younger brother, wasn't about to give in like everyone else did. In his confession to Sheldon on why he'd been distant all these years, he admitted that it was because the whole family was so focused on his needs that they stopped caring about themselves in the meanwhile, especially their mother, Mary Cooper. Georgie told Sheldon that Mary didn't get a chance to grieve the loss of her husband properly because she knew that she couldn't break apart for Sheldon. This didn't mean she was doing okay, just that Georgie, the kid who stayed behind, had to be the one to pick up the broken pieces of their mother. It wasn't about Sheldon, or at least it couldn't always be about Sheldon. Now, while fans have come to love the eccentric scientist throughout the show, they could resonate with what Georgie said in the moment. Sheldon was demanding, even if he wasn't conscious of it. And when Georgie dove into what it was like for the family, it had everyone thinking, what was the family dynamic like at the Cooper household while Sheldon was growing up? And just like that, young Sheldon was born. So I actually think we owe Georgie a lot of the credit when it comes to the successful spinoff. And that in and of itself is enough to warrant him getting one of his own too, right? Oh, and Holland confirmed this won't be like Young Sheldon. So does that mean it'll be more like The Big Bang Theory instead? We're going back to basics with Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage. Fans went from feeling indifferent about Georgie to wanting to know more about what it was like when the Cooper kids were growing up. Yes, it tugged at their heartstrings in between laughs when you could see how often the other two Cooper kids were navigating having Sheldon hog the spotlight all the time. But no, it wasn't enough to give Georgie his starring spinoff. Missy didn't get one for herself, then why should Georgie? Well, Missy's storyline isn't shelved just yet. We saw her go from being the complete opposite of Sheldon to still being the complete opposite of her twin brother. You have one twin who can't hold a conversation for the life of them, and the other who's the life of the party. Also, Mary didn't get a spinoff either, and is that fair? Again, her storyline isn't shelved just yet either. In Young Sheldon's two-part finale, Mary tries to deal with the sudden loss of her husband by clenching onto her faith. She goes from following the church and being an active member and volunteer to someone who's overseeing a lot of the church's activities. Mary's also the most frequently seen character from Sheldon's childhood to appear in The Big Bang Theory, and she takes on the strict, devoted Christian Texas mom like no one else could. And if you think casting had to search far and wide to find the perfect younger Mary Cooper, you'd be wrong. Fun fact, Zoe Perry is Laurie Metcalf's biological daughter. Anyways, let's circle back to the question. Why does Georgie get a spinoff when the others don't just yet? Because his storyline might have been the only one that wasn't inherently connected to George Sr.'s passing. Yes, he was deeply affected when he lost his father, especially when he realized he had to take on the role of the man of the house while now having a family of his own. But Georgie already had a concurrent storyline working for him that was separate from the events of Young Sheldon. He didn't have to rely on all of the ensemble cast members to come on his spinoff for it to work. Just an occasional guest appearance or two. That's what Holland meant when he said the last thing they'd want to do is create another Young Sheldon. If that was really the case, they could have just renewed the show for another season, but they knew it was time for that series to end and for Georgie to have his own. Georgie went from not having a care in the world to having a whole family. He was head over heels for Mandy McAllister when he first saw her in season 5, but never in his wildest dreams could he have imagined that she'd come up to him one day telling him that she's pregnant. And so, after pinching himself a couple of times and telling George Sr. and Mary this was not a joke, he took on a completely new role that transformed him for the better, with a few bumps along the road, obviously. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage also draws inspiration from The Big Bang Theory in the way the show's presented. Lore is known for sitcoms, yes, but he's known for a particular format, multi-camera use and a live studio audience. Yes, the spinoff takes us back to where it all began. The chance to tell stories in this world where we don't know the future or where very little about the future was exciting is what Steve Holland had to say when discussing the spin-off series, and we couldn't agree more. Young Sheldon was predictable in all the right ways, but undergrad Sheldon would have been a little too on the nose, right? So if there had to be another spin-off that wasn't old Sheldon, it had to divert from Sheldon. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage aired in 2024, and by 2025, CBS announced they'd been renewed for a second season. Emily broke the news on social media, thanking everyone for giving the cast another 22 episodes to tell Georgie and Mandy's story. It's like Holland said, it's a whole new world out there. However, the title might have given away the ending already. Either that, or the fact that when Sheldon met Georgie decades later at his tire shop, there was no implication of him and Mandy still being together. So the title is a bit of a dead giveaway to what will eventually happen, but that doesn't mean it makes the show less than it should be. So far, Ian Armitage hasn't appeared in the show, and Holland confirmed they're just waiting for the right moment to reintroduce him into the spinoff without making it about Sheldon Cooper yet again. And so, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage proves so far that it's more than just another spinoff. But what do you think is the future of the Big Bang Theory universe? Anyways, this has been 10K Bill, and thanks for watching. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, comment down below what you'd like to hear me talk about next, and of course, make sure you subscribe for all your entertainment-related content.